Go to number 4. Most people coming to the symposium for the first time don't expect to get poetry along with their CE credits. But over the past 3.5 decades, we found there is a profound link between the healing arts and the creative arts. We've often had speakers representing the arts, but never did we have someone who so captured our imagination like the great John O'Donohue. A former priest, a poet, and a simply magnificent presence, he mesmerized us even as he inspired us and made us happy just to listen to his lilting voice and wild laughter.
A therapist is somebody who is trained to listen. And this is what the artist does as well, the writer. Heidegger said, true listening is worship. But you're trained to listen to the spaces of silence as much as to the places of word. And the therapist is also trained to look. But it all depends on the kind of looking that you do. Yesterday when we were coming to Shannon because of the planes that go through Shannon with soldiers going to Iraq, there was lots of protests. So now they have a policeman on your way in who looks at you to see would you kind of have Taliban affinities from Connemara or belong to a little Al-Qaeda cell in Kilfenora. And so we were coming along in and there was a big major policeman who gave you the, how you lads like. And then he had a little new kind of baby policeman with him who was training to be a policeman, right? But we looked at the thing and we were laughing, like, because they say we had nothing to hide. And my brother said, look at the little one, the eyes of him, he said. And there was the little one trying to screw up his eyes as much as to say, oh, Irish humans, I know that there is illegality somewhere in ye. And my really transcendent, penetrating policeman's eyes will bring it out. Do you know what I mean? Like, geez, we laughed our heads off at the look of him, like, because he looked so funny, trying to look mean, you know. But there is a way of watching, you see, which is very important. And a lot of clients of yours that would come to you in the sanctuary of your office would be people whose watching of themselves was incredibly blemished and damaged and toxic. And somehow, most change happens in the implicit unsaid region. So somehow the way that you would behold them might enable them to retrieve the lost kindness in their own eyes so that they might learn to behold themselves truly. The other thing is, you have to bloody well live a life in order to go watching it. Like. You can become a professional watcher, like a kind of, what do you call it, a night security man at an empty building. Do you know what I mean? I'd rather 2 ounces of raw, wild, lived experience than 14 sessions of watching it. Because sometimes, if you learn to watch too habitually, you'll frighten the experience before it can actually take place. And actually there's ground, I'd say, for a whole different kind of almost untherapy, which would get people off their own bloody case and just let them be. To let them, what I'd call a spirituality almost of non-interference. Do you know, imagine if you said to your client, look it, nothing has happened to you for 6 bloody months, but you're at yourself all the time and you now have a PhD in woundology. Why don't we give it a break and go off for 6 months and do a couple of things without watching yourself and then come back and we'll have a great old chat, the two of us. So at the level of being, that's where all the magic actually happens. And I think, you see, that, you know, they used to say in theology, quis custodes custodies, who will guard the guards? Well, like, who cares for the carers? And I think it's the duty of a carer and of a therapist to look after themselves and to mind their own hearts, minds, and imagination. Like, an interesting question to ask yourself is, who are you reading? When was the last time that you had a really great conversation? that sang in your mind for months afterwards or weeks afterwards? When was the last time that you saw something that completely fascinated you and brought you to another place? How you around change and your openness to the vulnerability of new voyagings. And how do you treat the harvest of the unsaid and unsayable within yourself? Do you rifle it with the latest concepts? Or do you respect its slow, unpredictable kind of fermentation and what can actually emerge from it? How are you, in other words, about your own sense of mystery? And what level and quality of imagination do you bring to imagining who you are? Because I would respectfully submit that there is a fatal symmetry between the quality and depth of your imagining of yourself and your ability to imagine those who sit in front of you on the most precarious, broken thresholds of their own hearts and souls.